How you doing? Good. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. What's that? Oh man, mashallah. I'm throw it in the stack with the rest of the ones that I got, right? That I don't even use. Mashallah, mashallah. Gonna have to show me how to work this thing here. Okay. Is that how that works? What do you mean? Come on. Bring me up to speed.
Take it out to you. I do is lift this up like that.
Oh, and put it. No.
Slide it right in there.
Oh, okay.
All right. It's strong like that. Well, however you go. However you go, flip the camera.
Okay. All right, we good to go.
Yeah.
No more using the Sahih al-Bukhari as a as a prop. Imam, did you ever find that the piece?
Yeah, you're gonna need to hit the wireless.
You sure?
Yeah.
Because sometimes the battery runs out on those things.
How's the battery on that one? It's on red.
Okay, I
And
see
I'ma
you
look around
step
and
in
see
your
if I can
technology game.
Yeah, it's not. That's okay.
So, let's see. Got a whole bunch of new gadgets here today. Headpieces, stands. Where am I? Okay, is this on? Is it on?
Yes, sir. It's on. Funny, man. Yeah?
No? Bismillah. Okay. Sound good?
I got 2 new batteries. Only reason
This is what I was trying to avoid.
Let me change the batteries. That's all.
I can hold it. That's not a problem. I can hold it. I just don't want, like, in the middle of the lecture for that to, you know, go out.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. Let's see if it's
Okay, so while you're doing that, just,
No.
oh, you unplugged it.
Yes, sir.
Right here.
What you got?
Okay.
Oh, you can use
Yeah.
that one then.
Is that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but he has to plug it back in. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله أرسله الله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا أما بعد. So in the last lesson, we're still talking about 10 obstacles that are in the way of our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the last lesson we talked about Number 3, which was frustration with the things that happen to us in our lives, meaning the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us, either due to the things that we've done to ourselves by our own hands, or because of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us by His divine wisdom. And whether the latter or the former, it's both under the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the actions that we do, although it's by the decree of Allah, it's a choice that we had. So the onus, so the responsibility falls on us, because you had a choice in the matter. But then there are things that Allah has decreed on you that you don't have any choice in, and those are the things that you are not accountable for. Like the color of your skin, right? Which to society might be a crime, but in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no crime in being black or white, or that's something that you had no control over. Who your parents were, the circumstance or the situations that you were born into, these are things that you had no control over. But then those things that we had a choice, those are the things that we are accountable for. And I said that sometimes that we get frustrated with the things that happen to us because we're not able to process, or we're looking for a way out. We're looking for a way to alleviate the pain that we're experiencing, and sometimes we run away from the religion because of that. All right? Not realizing that most of the things that happen to us in our lives, most of it is because of what we've done to ourselves. And we victimize. We make everybody else the perpetrator, and we're always the victim. So if it's your fault, I never have to look at the part that I played in creating the situation, because I always have you to blame it on. It's your fault. You did this to me, right? And as I said, Shaitan will say on the Day of Judgment, don't blame me. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't blame me, but blame yourselves. I had no authority over you except to call you, and you responded. You had a choice. And then we talk about the things that were written, the things that were decreed that we had, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today. And we said that some of the things that were decreed for us, and it is good, although it might appear outwardly to be bad, it might appear outwardly to be, tumultuous, right? But it's actually something that is good. As Allah says in the Quran, "Asa an takrahu shay'an wa yaj'al Allahu fihi khayran kathira." Perhaps you may hate a thing, and Allah has placed an abundance of good in it, right? And number 4, from the obstacles in our path to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we said overestimating ourselves. Thinking that we are larger or greater than what we really are, and that's the trial of this time and era of, self-aggrandizement, where we begin to believe that we're more than what we really are. And I said this is a lot of times has to do with people who are born and raised Muslim, who kind of deviate from Islam and then try to work their way back into the religion, but they come back strong, believing that the stronger they come back, the more they can distance themselves from where they came from. And that in itself is an extreme. And if you don't catch yourself, as the Prophet ﷺ said about the Khawarij, he said, يَخْرُجُونَ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ كَمَا يَخْرُجُ السَّهْمُ مِنَ الرَّمِيَّةِ, that they will leave out of the fold of Islam like an arrow exits its target. It comes in and then it goes right back out, right? And you find many Muslims, young Muslims who were born and raised in Islam, they kind of deviate away from Islam, and then they come back, but they come back with such vigor, such strength and enthusiasm that they go right back out. They come in and then they go right back out. They come, as the Prophet ﷺ described the Khawarij, they will exit the fold of Islam like an arrow exits its target. It goes in and then it comes out on the other end. And so, even those who are born and raised Muslim trying to come back to the deen, you have to make sure that you don't come back with such, enthusiasm that you exit from the other side. As the scholars say, فَرُّ مِنْ شَيْءٍ وَوَقَعَ فِيهِ, that you were running from one thing and then you ultimately fall into it on the other angle, right? You're running away from kufr, but you end up falling right back into it, right? Because you go to the extreme in the religion, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna hadha deen mateen." Well, in another narration, he said, "Inna hadha deen yusr, lan yushad deen ahadun illa ghalabahu." That this religion is very strong, mateen, right? It's vast. There's so many things to do in this religion. He said in another narration, in the deen yusr, the religion is easy. وَلَنْ يُشَادِ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ, and no one seeks to go to the extreme in the religion إِلَّا غَلَبَهُ, except that he will be overwhelmed by the religion. Right? He will be overtaken by the religion. He said, فَسَدِّدُوا وَقَارِبُوا. He says, so come as close to the middle path, the middle course, as you possibly can. فَسَدِّدُوا وَقَارِبُوا. Come as close to the middle path as you possibly can. Stay in the middle. Not going too far to the right or too far to the left. And another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَأَوْغَلُوا فِيهِ بِالرِّفْقِ. So tread lightly in the deen. Tread lightly. فَأَوْغَلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقِ. Tread lightly in the religion. He said, وَلَا تُبَغِّدْ إِلَى نَفْسِكَ عِبَادَةَ اللَّهِ. And do not make servitude to Allah, hate it to yourself. Do not make yourself hate serving Allah by going to the extreme in the religion. So finding a balance, how do we find a balance in our religion? We find a balance by measuring your own capacity. Measuring your own capacity. And the whole goal or the objective, the ghaya, the goal of maintaining a balance in the religion is to maintain longevity. The only way that, as I said before, we are on this path to servitude to Allah until we die. There's no pit stop. There's no shortcut, right? There's no time off. There's no, I'm going to take, a sabbatical. I'm going to take a pause for a minute and I'm going to go on a binge for 2-3 years and I'm going to find my way back to Islam. We are on this path of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ila mamat, until we die. So seeing as though it's not like this race, this journey, right? We need longevity, and the only way that you can maintain on this path is if you maintain it with a balance. Because if you go to the extreme, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn yourself out. And we've seen people burn out, right? We've seen Muslims burn out. 6-7 months, a year, 2 years in a religion going hard. And then eventually they just say that this is too much. It becomes overwhelming, overbearing. Exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith. He said, "Inna hadha deen yusr." This religion is easy. "Lan yashadu deen ahadun illa ghalabahu." No one seeks to go to the extreme in this religion, except eventually he will be overtaken by the religion. Right? And the Prophet ﷺ, he understood this. So many times when people would come to him and ask him about matters from the religion, his responses would always be his default response. Our default response is always extreme. You got to go do this. You got to stay on the sunnah. You got to do this, right? Our default is always the extreme, right? Because we're practicing Islam on survival mode. Right? And trying to survive, you're always going to be, extreme in surviving because it's survival. Right? But the Sahaba, many of them didn't practice Islam in survival mode. Islam only came to complement and accommodate that spiritual, element that they already had with them. Islam only came to enhance that. They weren't on survival mode. Many of us were lost in the wilderness of North America, right? Lost, man, lost. And then we found Islam and it's like, we go full speed ahead, But many of the Sahaba, they didn't practice Islam with the extreme. And some of them had met some of the tabi'un and saw some of the extremes that they were going to, and they criticized them for that. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ, one narration, a man came to him and he asked him about Islam. فَسَأَلَهُ عَنِ Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ's response was, pray your 5 daily prayers and, pray your 5 daily prayers, pay your zakat, and fast your month of Ramadan. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't say anything about Hajj. And the man, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, Wallahi la azidu ala hadha wa la anqus. He said, Wallahi, I will not do more than what you told me, nor will I do less. I will do exactly what you told me. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Qad aflaha in sadaq. He will be successful if he sticks to what he says. If he just prays his 5 daily prayers, he pays his zakat, and he fasts his month of Ramadan, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ إِن صَدَقَ. He will be successful if he sticks to those things. Right? In another narration, on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah رضي الله تعالى عنهما, أن رجلا سأل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال أرأيت إن صليت الصلوات المكتوبات وصمت رمضان وأحللت حلال وحرمت الحرام ولم أزد على ذلك شيئا أأدخل الجنة. He came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, O Messenger of Allah, he said, what if أرأيت, what if صليت الصلوات المكتوبات, I prayed my 5 daily prayers, that's it, I prayed my 5, وصمت رمضان, and I fast my month of Ramadan, وأحللت حلالا, and I consider halal what Allah made halal, وحرمت حراما, and I consider haram what Allah made haram, أأدخل الجنة, will I enter into paradise? Just think if someone was to ask us, one of us, that question right now. If someone said, you know what, I'm just going to put on my hijab when it's time for salah. Right? I'm not going to wear hijab. I'm just going to put it on when it's time to pray. I'm going to pray my 5 daily prayers. I'm going to fast the month of Ramadan. And I'm going to consider halal what Allah made halal, and I'm going to consider haram what Allah made haram. Will I go to paradise if I do that? I mean, you would probably be amazed with the responses that you would get from some Muslims today. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the man, Na'am, yes, absolutely, you'll go to paradise. So now the question is, and why didn't the Prophet ﷺ say anything to him about zakat? Because Allah never separates salat and zakat, right? And he never said anything to him about hajj. There's 2 other pillars of Islam. This happened in Medina. This was after hajj and zakat had already been obligated. Zakat was obligated in the Meccan period. Just it wasn't specified, but it was legislated from the very beginning. Hajj wasn't obligated until the 7th or 8th year after Hijrah. Why didn't the Prophet ﷺ say anything to him about hajj or zakat? Okay, so he's saying that the Prophet ﷺ knew the man's condition. Okay, but very good. There you go. That's the point that I'm looking for. Because zakat and hajj is not obligatory upon every Muslim. Who is zakat obligatory on? The one who has the money to pay zakat. Right? Who is hajj obligatory on? Man istata'a ilayhi sabila, whoever has the ability to perform hajj. If you don't have it, then it's not necessary for you to say, well, what about zakat and hajj, right? We would do that because here again, that extreme element that is with us. We got to make sure that we give you everything, right? Both barrels, we got to give you everything. Well, what about zakat and hajj and this one and that and this and that? We got to give you the whole everything, the whole rundown. And that is the stuff that makes people feel overwhelmed. Because we don't consider that there's some acts of worship that may not even be obligatory on the person. But yet, right, I'll just give you an example. A sister takes shahada, we obligate on her nikah. She got to get married. Sis, you got to get married. You see the sister coming to the masjid faithfully, right? She just took her shahada. And we obligate on the sister to become married, to be married. And subhanAllah, so as I said before, some sisters have married because of this prematurely. Because after they begin to develop in Islam, they realize that if I would have known then what I know now, I would have never married him. But as a new convert to Islam, they obligated on me something that wasn't obligatory. If a person has, the desire, but they can control their desires, not being married is not a fitna for them, then nikah in that situation becomes mubah. It's allowed, it's not obligatory. When does marriage become an obligation Islamically? When you have the financial ability to maintain, for a man obviously, if you have the financial ability to maintain a woman and not being married is a fitna for you. Then in that situation, nikah, marriage becomes obligatory for you. But if you don't have the financial means, or you have the financial means, but being married is not necessarily a fitna for you, then marriage is not an obligation on you. Not every new convert who comes to Islam is hard pressed to be married. But yet we obligate that on the believers because in our minds, we got to give you everything, the whole rundown. And that is what makes people feel overwhelmed with the religion. So we have to make sure that we don't do that to people. We allow people to find their niche in the deen because ultimately maintaining that will ensure their longevity in the religion. Is that point understood? But we move to number 5 from the obstacles that impede our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 5 is the suhbah as-sayyi'ah, bad company. Bad company, having bad companionship. The company that we keep can negatively impact our journey to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our company should complement, listen to this, our company, the company that we keep, should complement our journey, not complicate it. The company that we keep should complement our journey to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not complicate it or contradict it. Because sometimes we'll keep people in our circle and their lifestyle is the total opposite of the journey that we claim that we're on. We claim that we're on a journey to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the people that you keep around you are in total contradiction of your claim. Right or wrong? Yeah. Right? Absolutely. The Prophet ﷺ, he warned us about bad company. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi, falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil." The word khalil, we've heard this term, we even know brothers that have this name. The word khalil, right, comes from the Arabic word khulla, which means like an intimate friend, right? A bestie, if you will, right? I don't think men would probably use the term bestie, right? Nonetheless, you got my point. It's not, because some people might use this hadith and say, well, a brother is on the religion of his close friend just because you see me talking to someone. That's not a close friend. That's an associate or someone, a business partner or someone that you just saw me talking to. That's not a close friend. Right? You might be talking to someone and someone will come up and say, the Prophet said you got to be careful who, you hang around with because a brother's on the religion of his friend. It's not a friend. It's my brother in Islam. It's someone that I see on a regular basis. I stop to give him the greeting of salam. I saw you smiling with the brother. Duh. Is that smiling not a sadaqah? Even if it's someone that I don't particularly like. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ befriend people and show, good hospitality towards people that he didn't like, right? A man came to his door. He said, "Bitsa akhu ashira." How embarrassing is this individual to his family? I mean, I know this guy's family, and he's an embarrassment to his family. Then when Aisha let him in, the Prophet smiled at him and he treated him well. And Aisha said to the Prophet, "How could you say what you said about him?" And then smile with him. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Aisha, when have you ever known me to be imprudent or disrespectful?" Meaning, just because I feel like that about him doesn't mean that I have to treat him as such, right? A man walked by, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inni la a'lam anna fulan la ya'lamu shay'an min dinina." That this particular individual brother walked by, the Prophet ﷺ said, "This person, I don't think he knows anything from our religion. I don't think he knows anything from our deen." And then yet he was cordial with people. So be careful how we use this hadith. A khalil is someone who is intimate, someone who holds a special place in your life, in your heart, that other people don't have, right? That's a khalil, that's a khulla. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi." A man is on the religion of his close companion. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِفُ. So look at, every one of you, take a look at the person that is closest to you. Right? Is that person complementing your journey to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is that person complicating or contradicting your path to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? On the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that friendships that weren't genuine and complementing to this journey of servitude, that friendship will now turn into enmity and hatred. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-akhilla, which is the plural of Khalil. Al-akhilla, yawma idhin ba'duhum li ba'din adu illa al-muttaqeen. That friends on that day, meaning on the day of judgment, will be enemies. Because this is that friendship that wasn't genuine, that wasn't for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cool because our wives are cool, or we cool because, we like the same shoes and pocketbooks, or we shop at the same store, or our children go to the same school. That's not companionship. That's not the reason to bring someone into your intimacy, right? There has to be a value there. There has to be a thread there that, that you see that the person brings value to your life. Al-akhilla yawma idin, that friends on that day will be enemies to one another. Why? Because the essence of their companionship will now be exposed. It will be exposed. Except those who are muttaqeen, those who are righteous and pious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a glimpse into the discussion between these types of friends on the day of judgment. In the hellfire, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya waylata laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila laqad adallani 'ani adh-dhikri ba'da idh ja'ani wa kana ash-shaytanu lil-insani khadhula. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the person will say, Ya waylata laytani, I wish, woe be to me, I wish, lam attakhidh fulanan khalila, I had never taken this person as a friend. I wish I had never taken this person as a friend. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي. This person led me astray from the remembrance of Allah after it came to me. وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. And shaitan is ever an abandoner of man. Shaitan will abandon you in your time of need. So be aware of the type of companionship. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ gave us a very distinct relationship between the believers. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-mu'min mir'atun lil-mu'min. The believer is a mirror to another believer. What does that mean? Like, we heard these hadith throughout the years. What does that mean? That a believer is a mirror to another believer. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what is the reflection that comes back to you? Huh? What about you? Huh? Come on, we got to go deeper than that. Y'all giving me surface stuff. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what comes back to you? Everything. The good and the bad. You see your flaws. You see the good, right? You see your flaws. You see the good. You see everything. That is the way that a believer is to another believer. We mirror the good of one another and the bad of one another. So if I show you the bad that is in you, I point that out to you, don't get offended. Just like when you look in the mirror and you see your flaws, you see your pimples, you see the blackheads, you see all of the scars, you see all of the negative things that you dislike about your image. You don't get mad when you look at yourself in the mirror. So why do you get mad at me when I mirror to you the behavior that you should change about yourself? Al-mu'min mir'atun lil-mu'min. The believer is a mirror to another believer. When I reflect to you the things that you dislike about yourself, don't hate me because you can't bring yourself to hate you. Hate you, don't hate me. I'm just mirroring to you the things that you dislike about yourself. But here again, we victimize. I'm going to dislike you because now I'm going to interpret that as disrespect. I'm going to interpret that as many ways. I'm going to twist that as many ways as I can twist it, because by doing so, I don't ever have to look at me. I can shove it off. I can dismiss it as your approach. You're disrespectful, the way you said it. this, that. I can stuff it off. I can dismiss it as many ways as I want. But no matter what, no matter how you dismiss it, the fact of the matter is that you do not want to confront yourself. All I am doing is I'm mirroring to you your behavior. Al-mu'min mir'atun lil-mu'min. The believer is a mirror to another believer. Don't get mad at me for pointing it out to you. Some of us wouldn't even have people we keep people in our circles that placate our feelings, that make us feel good, that praise us and, elevate us and, build us up to the status where we feel like we are untouchable. And in the moment you get around someone that will point that out to you, that you're not so great, that you're not what you think you are, we get upset, we get offended, right? I've been in a room with brothers, imams, people of knowledge who've got up and walked out the room because you upset because somebody pointed something out to you. And then we'll try to circumvent, we'll circumvent that as many ways as we can. Oh, he was disrespectful. I ain't like the way he said it. He ain't have to say it in front of everybody. Blah, 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 to the end of it. And it doesn't matter how you said it. Doesn't matter where you said it. Doesn't matter who you said it in front of. You're still not going to accept it. Because you don't like looking in the mirror. Look at yourself in the way that you look at yourself in the mirror. Do we see our flaws? When you look at yourself in the mirror, do you look at the flaws that are in you? Or do we overlook that and just concentrate on the good, right? But a mirror reflects everything to you, the good and the bad. And this is the way that our companionship should be with one another. As one of the Salaf, one of the scholars of the past, he said that enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil has left me friendless. Because people don't like to hear about themselves. They don't like to hear it. So therefore, I end up with basically no friends. People don't really want you in their circle because you are very forthright. You're very straightforward. You don't cut corners. And this is the time that we living in. We're talking about, keep it 100. Ain't nobody in this generation keeping it 100. This is not that generation. That generation was in the 80s, in the 90s, man. Keep it 100. We gave birth to that phrase, man. Nonetheless, as the scholars, they say, al-mir'a, the mirror, turihi mahasinahu wa ma'ayibuhu, that a mirror shows you your good and your bad. And having a good companion, one of the signs that you have a good companion is that they show you your good and your bad. And it should be more important with husband and wife. Husband and wife should have that type of relationship where she can expose to you your good and to you your bad, and that's taken well. And vice versa. Man should be able to expose to his wife her good as well as her bad, and that should be taken well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a glimpse at true companionship in the Quran. And that was between Prophet Musa and Harun, his brother Harun. In this story, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tasked Musa with going to confront Fir'aun. And Musa turned and asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, assist him on his journey with a couple of things. So listen to what Musa said, and this will give us or outline for us the blueprint of good companionship. Suhba tayyiba, good companionship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Musa, he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي أُشْدُدْ بِهِ أَزْرِي وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ كَثِيرًا وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا إِنَّكَ كُنْتَ بِنَا بَصِيرًا. Musa said, وَجَعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. Give me a wazir, a right hand, someone that will be a part of this mission, someone from my family. وَجَعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي. Make for me an assistant from my family. Harun akhi, my brother Harun. And the scholars of Tafsir said that this statement of Musa is what made Harun a prophet. Make Harun, my brother, my assistant. From that dua, Harun became a brother. And it shows you that there was no enmity or jealousy between them, because usually when a person gets to a position of the highest position that you can have in this world, which is prophethood, right? Messengership, right? You usually want that for yourself. But it just shows you the selflessness of Musa. He said that he wanted his brother on the mission. Usually when we get, a job, if we work in construction, we work in somewhere, we get a job, right? We don't tell nobody nothing about where, we do this as something as simple as clothing. Your brother, where you get that jacket from? That's a nice jacket. Oh, I got this from my man cross town. We don't want to expose that, right? That here again, that exclusivity, we want to be the only one, right? With it. That's a disease. That's a sickness, man. This exclusivity that we want only to be the only one in the city with this, the only one in the hood with this, the only one in the masjid with this. Instead of wanting other people to have it, want for your brother what you want for yourself, right? So he said, make my brother, Harun Akhi, my brother, make him my assistant in this mission. He said, Ushdud bihi azri, strengthen me with him. That's companionship. That the people that you have in your circle should add value to your life. These are not people, leeches, people that just malingering around in your life, leeching off of your success. These are the type of people that drain you. They take everything from you. It's a struggle for you, right? To maintain your religion. And the little bit that you get, you drink from this well of ilm, of iman, of knowledge and faith. And then you go around these people and they suck it right out of you. You go to Jumu'ah, you pray 5 times a day, and you around this person for 5 hours and they drain you. After being around the person, you got to go make Tawbah, you got to go back to the masjid, you got to go read some Quran, because this just being around this person has just drained you. That's not companionship, man. That's detrimental. That's dangerous. And we have to be able to discern the people in our lives who deserve that type of position in our lives, man. He said, Ushdud bihi azri, strengthen me with this person. Make me stronger with this person. Meaning, make this person an asset to my life. And if we all concentrated on the people that are in our lives, now maybe even some people can be an asset without necessarily being an asset, right? You can keep people in your life. You can keep people in your life that remind you of what you don't want to be. Right? Remind you of where you came from. That's the only reason, that's the only purpose that they serve in your life, as a reminder. I'm not cool with this person because I hang out with them. I'm cool with this person because when I talk to this person for 20 minutes, it reminds me of where I came from. And after I hang up the phone with this person, I show my gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because just the conversation with that person just reminds me of where I came from. So some people can be an asset without necessarily being an asset, a more indirect asset, because they remind you of where you came from. They remind you of your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And then there's some people, by being in your life, they remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're around them, you feel like your iman is strengthening. You feel like you're growing, just being in the same space as them, even for a short period of time. So he said, Ushdud bihi azri, strengthen me with him. Wa ashrikhu fi amri, and let him share in my task. So when we look at that in terms of our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the person, this company that you are keeping, are they sharing with you in this task of your journey to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are they sharing in that task with you? Right? Can you pick up the phone and call them when your iman is weak, when you're feeling like you might engage in something that is haram, and you pick the phone up and you say, listen, I need you to talk me off the ledge, right? This is the type of person that I'm talking about. He said, كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ كَثِيرًا. He said, so that we can praise you much. وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا. And we can remember you much. Because that's what a true companion does. Helps you to praise Allah. Helps you to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's companionship. And these are the type of people, these are the type of companionship that aid you in your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the scholars of the past, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he commented on a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers, those who feared Allah, being ushered into Jannah in a group. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين وقالوا الحمد لله الذي صدقنا وعده وأورثنا الأرض نتبوأ من الجنة حيث نشاء فنعم أجر العاملين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. And those who feared their Lord will be ushered into Jannah Zumara. Surah Zumar is the name of the surah, surah number 39 in the Quran. These are the last couple of ayats in the surah. That they will be ushered into Jannah Zumara, in groups, in crowds. That when they come to the gate of Jannah, the khazana, the gatekeeper of Jannah, who was Ridwan, will open the gate of Jannah and say, Salamun alaikum, peace be upon you. Tibtum, you did good in the life of this world. Fadkhuluha khalidin, enter into Jannah to dwell therein forever. And they say collectively, Alhamdulillah, who has fulfilled his promise and allowed us to, go into Jannah wherever we want. فَنِعْمَ أَجْرُ الْعَامِلِينَ. And how great is the reward of those who work. How great is the reward of those who work, meaning in this life for Jannah. Ibn Qayyim, he said, يَأْبَى اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى أَنْ يَدْخُلُ النَّاسَ الْجَنَّةَ فَرَادًا فَكُلُّ صُحْبَةٍ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ سَوِيًّا. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you notice in this ayat, they're all being ushered into Jannah in what? In a group. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la ilaha illallah. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that Allah refused to allow the believers to go into Jannah individually. So He lets them go into Jannah in crowds based upon the companionship that they had in this life. SubhanAllah. So the people that you keep in your circle, Allah will allow you to enter into Jannah together with those people, opposed to you entering individually, separately. Could you imagine if you went into Jannah, right, and your bestie, you didn't know whether or not she made it or not? It wouldn't be complete bliss, because there would be worry, right? And Allah will do the same thing with parents and their children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran that we will وَيَلْحَقُهُمْ إِيمَانِهِمْ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. We will unite parents with their children in Jannah. Could you imagine a parent going into Jannah not knowing whether or not the children made it? It wouldn't be Jannah, because there would be worry there. There would be anxiety there. So it wouldn't be complete, absolute bliss. So Allah will unite the parent and the child in Jannah, right? So that, and that's not all on the same level though. Keep that in mind, because then if Allah united the children with the parents in the same level of Jannah, then it would mean that the children's working in this life really was irrelevant. But they will allow them to see and meet each other in Jannah, so that the heart of the parent, the heart of the child can be at ease, right? And this is, of course, for those whose parents and children are that's in the Jannah, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to enter into Jannah, allows our parents, to, if they're not Muslim, to convert to Islam and to enter into Jannah, But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow the believers to enter into Jannah in crowds, in groups, based upon the companionship that they had in this life. Subhanallah. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said, ما أعطي عبد بعد الإسلام نعمة خيرا من أخ صالح فإذا وجد أحدكم ودا من أخيه فليتمسك بي. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, very powerful statement. He said, ما أعطي عبد, he said, no servant has been given after Islam a ni'mah, a blessing greater than a righteous brother or sister. No servant has been given a ni'mah, a blessing greater after Islam than a righteous companion. He said, فَإِذَا وَجَدَ أَحَدُكُمْ وَدًّا مِّنْ أَخِيهِ, that if one of you finds that you have love for your brother or your sister, فَلْيَتَمَسَّكْ بِي, then let you hold tight to that brother or that sister. Hold tight to that brother. Hold tight to that person. So we move on to number 6. What time is it? 7:24. All right, cool. We got a couple minutes, inshallah. I'm only going to go an hour. Usually I'm going until like 8 o'clock. I'm not going to do that anymore. An hour is enough. Number 6 from the obstacles in our path of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trial and tribulation. Fitna. Trial and tribulation. Tumultuous times can have a negative impact on our journey towards servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Allah doesn't test us with more than what we can handle. Allah only gives us what we can handle, because giving us more than we can handle would obstruct us from being complete servants to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows this, which is why Allah says in many ayats, 3 ayats in the Quran that I know of personally, where Allah tells us that He does not give us more than what we can bear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that Allah does not burden a soul more than it can handle. So that means that whatever tests you are experiencing right now in your life, better believe Allah knew that you could handle it before He gave it to you. You didn't know it because you don't know yourself better than your Creator knows you. Allah says in the Quran, ألا يعلم من خلق وهو لطيف الخبير. Doesn't He know better, the one who created you? And He is Latif al-Khabir. He is all aware and subtle. Doesn't He know better who created you? But we think we know ourselves. We're living in a time where people deny the existence of God, right? And you don't even know yourself. You don't even know your own strength. But yet you're conjecturing about God, about the unseen, the world that you have absolutely no knowledge about. Yet there are things about you that you don't even know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Signs even within yourself. Can't you see? And that's a rhetorical question, because you can't see. Signs even within yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when you are standing over the dead person, right? You're watching this soul of this person exit his body. وَأَنْتُمْ تَنْظُرُونَ, while you're staring right after the person. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And we are closer to Him than you, but you can't see. You don't even get it. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to man than his own jugular vein. And we conjecturing about the existence of God. Nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in another ayah, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها وسيجعل الله بعد عسر يسرا, that Allah will not place on a soul more than He has given it the capacity to bear. Meaning that Allah has decreed for us the tests, and Allah has given us the capacity to endure, and therefore He has measured the tests based upon the capacity to endure that He gave us. La ilaha illallah. Ilahum ma'allah. Is there another God besides Allah? Subhanallah al-Azim. Is there another God besides Allah? Allah has measured the tests for you based upon the endurance that He has given you. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. He will not burden the soul more than He has given it the capacity to bear. وَسَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ عُسْرِ يُسْرًا. And Allah will make after difficulty ease. But we want ease without difficulty. That's our problem. We want ease without the difficulty. سَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ عُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Allah will make after difficulty ease. So there has to be difficulty first. But we want ease without the difficulty. So we circumvent, right? Spend our whole lives circumventing the inevitable. Nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows us better than we know ourselves, which is why we fret when we see trial and tribulation coming towards us. We try to circumvent the tests that have already been preordained for us 50,000 years before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us into existence. You are not going to escape this. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us in a hadith that what is written for us, even if you circumvent that, then it's going to hit you another way. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, فَإِنْ أَخْطَأَهُ هَذَا نَشَهَهُ هَذَا. وَإِنْ أَخْطَأَهُ هَذَا نَشَهَهُ هَذَا. If this trial misses you, this one will hit you. And if that one misses you, then that one will hit you. No matter, you can't circumvent the inevitable. What is written for you, there's no escaping that. Sometimes it comes by way of your job. You get your test, you get your lesson from where you work. Sometimes it's through your marriage. You get the lesson that you need to learn through your spouse, right? Sometimes it's through your children. You're getting the lesson that you need to get through your children. And no matter how much you try to circumvent, all right, you're 18, you got to get out, right? The child leaves the home, but then you get it from somewhere else. You marry somebody that has a child, and now you got another problem on your hand, right? You can't circumvent this, man. You can't get around this, all right? You quit your job running from one thing, and then you run into the same thing somewhere else. You divorce your spouse trying to escape one thing, and you run into it in another spouse. And أَخْطَأَهُ هَذَا نَشَهَهُ هَذَا. If this one misses him, this one will hit him. And if this one hits you, if this one misses you, then this one will hit you. There's no way to get around it. And the lesson will continue to repeat itself until you get it. Until you get it. Some of these lessons have been repeating themselves, right, all of our lives, because we still don't get it. We've still been making the same mistakes from 15 to 50. Still making the same mistakes. We just don't get it. Because the lessons haven't resonated. Nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our level of endurance, so He gives us just enough to keep us humble along our journey. On this path to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on this journey, right, there's a key quality that we need along this journey, and that is humility. We cannot maintain this journey of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ultimately, servitude, it has within itself, right, some element of humbleness, of humility. All right, if you're a servant of Allah, then in that servitude there should be some humility. All right, to be a servant to anyone or anything is a level of humility. But our humility to Allah raises us, but our humility to other human beings debases us. Right? When you humble yourself before God, it raises you. The Prophet ﷺ said, no one humbles himself before Allah except that Allah will raise him in degrees. So humbling yourself to Allah, right? Which is why we go into sujood, and the more you prostrate, the higher you raise. See how that works? But the more you humble yourself to a human being who there's no prostration, it's haram to prostrate to another human being. Prostration, meaning the concept of prostration, meaning humility. To humble yourself before another human being, right? It debases you, it humiliates you, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us just enough to keep us humble. These tests, these trials and tribulations that Allah gives us, it humbles us. When you look throughout the Quran, and I'll just give you a couple examples and we'll end here. When you look throughout the Quran, right, all of the prophets and messengers that Allah tested, right, and in the Quran, there are tons of examples of Allah testing his prophets and messengers to humble them in their journey to servitude. They're on a journey to servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just on a higher level of servitude. We're talking about prophethood, nubuwah, and risala, prophethood and messengership. It's still servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, it's a different level of servitude, right? And in order for those prophets and messengers to maintain that path of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a degree, an element of humility, right, that they have to experience. Look at the trials and tribulations that Allah has given all of his prophets. That was to humble them. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wife was accused of adultery. That humbled him. Here you are, the leader of the community, and your wife is being accused of adultery. Humbles him. And he wasn't able to even speak out in her defense because he doesn't speak from his own accord. He only speaks from revelation, right? So I'll give you some examples. Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, right? He walked away from his mission. Allah caused the well to swallow him. And then he called out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. He called out to Allah. وَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. He called out to Allah in the darkness of the belly of the well, right? Just look at the scene. Allah didn't use the word dua, yad'u. He didn't say he made dua. He said wanada. He called to call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning to implore Allah for his assistance. It's a level of humility. So Allah didn't use the word dua. He used the word nada. Right? Nada, to call on someone. Right? وَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ and la ilaha illa anta, there's nothing worthy of worship except you. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. I was wrong. And then Allah said, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ, and we responded to him. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ, and we saved him from that tumultuous situation. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Prophet Ayub, right? This was a man who Allah had given him everything. Looks, money, children, everything. And Allah stripped him of everything. His money, his children. The only thing he had left was his wife. Prophet Ayub was afflicted with a boros, which is translated as, what do they call it in English? The skin disease. Leprosy, right? Leprosy, to the point where some of the scholars say that even the flesh on his face began to fall off, right? And his wife stuck beside him. And Ayub was able to maintained his position. He never complained, nothing. When did Ayub complain? When he came home one day and his wife took off her wig and she was bald-headed. And Ayub asked her, "Where's your hair?" And she said, "I shaved it off and I sold it to buy medicine to cure you." La ilaha illallah. And Ayub, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الراحمين فاستجبنا له فكشفنا ما به من ضر وآتيناه وأهله ومثلهم معهم رحمة من عندنا وذكرى للعابدين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and Ayub, when he called on his Lord, and massani yadur, I have been touched with harm, with difficulty. Wa anta arhamur rahimin, and you are the most merciful of those who have mercy. This is one of the ways to make tawassul with Allah, to call on Allah by the way that He described Himself. So you call on Allah, you say, "Oh Allah, you said that you were ar-razaq, the provider. Provide for me." Oh Allah, you said that you were the most merciful. Have mercy on me. Oh Allah, you said that you would forgive anyone who called on you and asked for forgiveness. I'm calling on you, asking you forgiveness. Forgive me. Holding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the things that He has said about Himself. That is what's called another way to make tawassul, to call on Allah by the things that He has described Himself by. And you're more likely to get a response. This is the way that Allah described Himself. Anta Razak, you claimed or you said in your book that you are a Razak, you are the provider. Rizukni, provide for me. Right? So He said, Anta Arhamar Rahimin, you are the most merciful, I have mercy. You are the most merciful of those who have mercy. Look at my situation. Qad massani yadur. I've been harmed. Look what happened to my wife. He couldn't take it anymore. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Fastajabna lahu, and we responded to him. We responded to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about Musa alayhi salam. When Musa, he killed a man and he was on the run from Fir'aun and his group, right? And he almost made it to the area, he was on his way to the area of Midian, the place where Shu'aib was the prophet, right? And he settled down by a tree and he made a dua. He said, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin lafaqir. He said, Oh Allah, any good that you have decreed for me, I am in need of it now. La ilaha illallah. Subhanallah. Any good that you have for me, I am in need of it right now. Inni bima anzalta ilayya min khayrin lafaqir. I am in need of it right now. Any good that you have for me, I am in need of it right now. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded. And this is what the scholars call su'al bil hal, to call on Allah by your circumstance. Not to call on Allah by your tongue, but to call on Allah by circumstance. Oh Allah, look at my situation. Look at my situation. And of course, Allah sees you. Allah sees your situation. But it shows a need. It shows a humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Allah wants from us. When Allah tests us, when He tests us, He wants that humility. And so the tests are frequent. So even when the tests subside, the humility is still there. It's a constant state of humility. It's not only that you're humble when you're tested, but you're tested so frequently that even when the tests subside, you're still humble. You're still in that state. It's almost like an actor, right? When an actor plays a role, sometimes they get in character before they start filming, and they stay in character even after the filming is over with. They're still in character. So even after the test is over with, you're still in character. You're still in character, even after the movie is done, right? The filming is over with, but you're still in character. All right, because we perform when the tests come. Oh, Allah, help me. Oh, Allah, I need your help, And then once the fitness subsides, we can get out of character real quick. No. Stay in character. Stay in character. Because before you blink, there'll be another test coming around. So you got to get back in character. So it's good to just stay in character completely all the time. So when the tests come, you already in character. You already there. All right? I'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, but there's just so much more with this. But the trials and the tribulations should not run us away from Islam. This shouldn't run us away from Islam. The humility is necessary for this journey. How are you going to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an obedient slave, except that through all of this journey that you've been through trials and tribulations, you done fail, you done scraped yourself, you done bumped your head, you done hit yourself on so much. At the end of your journey, when the angel of death comes to grab your soul, right? You in such a humbled state because you've been through so much. You've seen so much. And when the angel of death comes to you and says, Akhriju anfusakum, bring your soul out, you just let go. You don't even hold on anymore. You just let go. My grandmother said to me at 96, she said, why don't God just take me? Why is He doing this to me? Just take me. I said, Grandma, because God is not done with you yet. He's not done with you yet. Your expiration date has not arrived yet. You understand? But by that time, you're humbled. Because you done been through so much, you done seen so much, that your life has been a journey of humility. And if we get that at a young age, right, it's very rare to see young people in this day and time humbled. They haven't had enough life experiences to be humbled yet. But if you're taking notes as these trials and tribulations are coming to you in your life, you pick up on it real quick, man. Being humble will be a part of your quality, a part of your character. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to grasp this concept. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وسبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. I don't know if there was any comments or questions about. I try to stick to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. That way we'll leave time for questions and answers. Periscope, I'll turn the thing off and then turn it back on for questions and answers.